Yeah, and that's how you start that show. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. It's your boy Wilson. It's a beautiful day. It's Thursday. I come in here 4 o'clock. 4:20, I open a big fat bag of cannabis news. And this week, I hope is a little bit smoother. That was a rough one last week. I'm not going to lie. Everything just shut down on me. And then I'm used to things going the way they're supposed to go. So then I go make it look easy. And then when I have to think, my brain goes, starts to smoke. So, but anyway, Pilko, the guy that puts it on YouTube, thanks, buddy. He said I didn't actually do that bad. So I'm going to believe him because that's positive. This week, though, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Cannabis news. We've got a crazy coke snorting statistic that I think will be fun to talk about. Right before me, though, is this side of the country with Trav 9 to 11. Then you got me, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, every Thursday, 4 to 5. Stinky Arts Music Mark directly after me, but not today, 5 to 7. Mixtape, music, talking interviews Thursday, 7 to 9, hosted by Butter Than Artemis, Bud Shrine, 9 to 11, music and talk. And that's what you got here on the best radio station as far as I'm concerned. This segment of programming on KRFF 95.9 LPFM is being underwritten by Memory Fireworks. Memory is locally owned and operated and have been serving the region for over 40 years. Home of the Dakota and Memory series. Check out fan favorites like Fargo, Dakota Chaos, and more. With 4 Fargo Moorhead locations, you can shop now. Pick up beginning June 27th. Memory is open Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Find them online at memoryfireworks.com. Man, fireworks can be fun. Anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Cannabis legalization, the benefits of cannabis. Cannabis news in general. We're going to cover all that. We'll throw some new music in there, too, for fun. Welcome, each and every one of you. I believe God made cannabis for us to use as we see fit, and I worship Him every Sunday, Antioch Church, 10 a.m. If you got a monkey on your back, or if you've knocked the monkey off your back, but you can feel him, tickling at your lower pocket line there. Come through. We can help you we can help you with it. And then 11 a.m. worship. I'm on stick duty again. Come on through. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy, blackcottagealchemy.com, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, 1600 mgs of CBD slapped into some buttery goodness. Thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show. Man, I think I might have gotten to tunes already. However, what's messing me up now is the clock on the wall is off by like a minute or two, and I'm not loving it. It's not great because now I'm wondering, is it my phone and the other two computers clocks that are off, or is it the one on the wall's got a slow battery or something? But anyway, that's a small problem to have. I won't let that hem us up. But again, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. It's Thursday. Here in Fargo Moorhead, RadioFreeFargo.org is streaming everywhere you are on this blue and green marble. If you want to listen to what we do, as a side note to the caller who called last week, I apologize if I was short and I wasn't able to really hear what you wanted to say. And it's kind of ironic because I thought later if I'd have just put you on the air, you would have saved the whole thing, and we could have just ate up time that way. But I'm kind of an idiot, so. I'm not real smooth. But anyway, thanks for calling is what I'm saying. And I've got another VA story to talk about even today that they're really making headway. And I don't have the article right in front of me, and I will. VA docs closer to recommend medical cannabis, and we'll talk about that. Apparently they greenlit something. Apparently the votes were close to unanimous, so that'll be really neat to see. And of course, that's a into federally legaling it as well. But we'll go ahead and get into some music here. Here's a brand new Robert Finley. You can smell the Black Keys coming off this. Dan the Man produced it. What goes around 95.9. What goes around comes around. Robert Finley. That's brand new on KRFF 95.9 LPFM, RadioFreeFargo.org, streaming everywhere on the blue and green marble. We can get in your ear hole. Let us, won't you? Won't you let us get in your ear hole? It's fun. We're going to talk about cannabis at 420. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, what you're strapped into as we speak. Things are going a whole lot smoother this week. I'm feeling a little good. The sweat rings under my arms are a little smaller today. I'm not going to lie. But again, welcome each and every one of you to the land of green. And man, has it been a good summer? I think so. I don't want to sound like, that I've already got it over. I don't want to do that. But anyway, at 420, we'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news. Thinking I got time to break off a story here. I just don't know which one I want to hit you with. All right, let's do this one. People all over the world are snorting more coke than ever. The UN, I guess that's United Nations, says. Cocaine production has increased steadily for 7 straight years, and the drug is now gaining popularity in Africa, Asia, and southeastern Europe. Now, this is a side story. Obviously, I cover cannabis news, but I also cover news, and this seems kind of interesting. So sue me. Feel me? Global cocaine use has surged to a record high, according to the UN latest annual World Drug Report. 22 million people used the cuckoo in 2021, up from 21 million, so 1 more millionth person than the last year. The spike is consistent with the overall increase in cocaine users that they've been tracking over the past 2 decades. Oh, tracking. That's code word for watching you, buddy. Coke is still most popular in the Americas, the UK, Western and Central Europe, but its popularity is now expanding to Africa, Asia, and Southeastern Europe. So check this out. We got numbers. So as the demand for Coke has exploded, so is the supply. 2021, farmers in Bolivia, Colombia, and Peru planted around 315,000, about 1,200 square acres of coca bush. Total cocaine production for that year topped out at around 2,300 tons. I'm trying to imagine that in a pile, and I can't. This boost isn't a temporary fluke either. The UN reports that the cocaine production has increased over these 7 years. The world is currently experiencing a prolonged surge in both supply and demand, which is now being felt. In the long term, the growth in seizures has outpaced in productions, and because drug people are always ahead of the cat, the mice are always ahead of the cat. Drug traffickers are devising new and unique ways to smuggle cocaine across international borders, though, which I thought, this is kind of why we're talking about it, because I thought this was interesting. The latest smuggling trend involves dissolving cocaine base into plastic or charcoal pellets. This unique process makes it nearly impossible for scanners, dogs, or x-rays to detect it. Underground chemists have even devised a way to lock the coke into a carrier material. So it's inside something that you can't see past something, so that no one can extract the drug without knowing exactly what chemical to use. The criminal actors involved, including both groups at source and those orchestrating traffic, have diversified in line with the dynamics of competition, specialization, collaboration. One recent report by an Australian drug lab found that about 40% of the coke it analyzed was completely fake. Instead of pure coca leaf, it found it was cut with stevia. Just kidding. I added that stevia part. That was getting kind of serious. I thought I'd light it up. You're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson here on KRWF 95.9. I took kind of a side road from our cannabis discussions because, I don't know, with a title like People Are Snorting More Coke Around the World, I thought we all should probably want to know about that, just for fun. But at 420, we'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news. I can assure you that's going to happen. Again, thanks for struggling with me last week. That was a bumpy ride. One more little piece of paperwork here, and then we'll get to it. I got the Latin Dead doing dead tunes just right around this. You're listening to Radio Free Fargo 95.9 KRWF. LP Community Radio. Business owners, managers, and nonprofit organizations considering advertising? Why not learn what underwriting is on a nonprofit community radio station like Radio Free Fargo? To learn more about what underwriting is, please contact us at our website, www.radiofreefargo.org, or at our profile on Facebook. Why not let listeners know that you support the community by supporting a community radio station like 95.9 that allows me to do stuff too, which is play this next song, Franklin's Tower by the Latin Dead, 95.9. Roll away to do. Franklin's Tower, the Latin Dead, brings you to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson time. So have no fear. It's this time. This time is here. For each and every one of you.
Hey, it's Phil from Cannaheads. Like this episode? Hit that like button. And if you enjoy the show, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on cannabis news, local and national. Listen live on 95.9 in the Fargo, North Dakota region from 4 to 5 p.m. on Thursday. For our non-Fargo region friends, you can listen on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Now enjoy the show.
All right. We made it. Each and every one of us got here. We got here as soon as we could, right? 4:20, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Well, for the next 25 minutes or whatever it is, we got cannabis news for y'all. And I'm going to pick one right here. This is from Cannabis Moment. And this is all kind of, I'm not saying it's new, but there's definitely, I would say we got that scheduling thing coming up soon. Real soon. So that'll be a big door opening if they take that off as a, controlled substance. So, anyway, Cannabis Moment. Major cannabis industry players launch Super PAC, which means they all throw their money together, which, if they're up against you, you don't like it, but if they're doing what you want, it's kind of cool. As 2024 election heats up. We've got an article about RFK and what he thinks of cannabis. I happen to like it, but I guess I want cannabis legal. Anyway, a coalition of cannabis businesses and advocacy groups has launched a new Super PAC. Oh, man. That will work to raise the profile of cannabis as a national issue in the 2024 election and beyond. And part of the strategy will involve finding industry partners to ask their customers to make roundup donations at the point of sale when shopping at dispensaries. The U.S. Cannabis Council announced on Wednesday that it is and its member business have formed the Legalize America Super PAC, which, unlike traditional political action committees, can accept contributions of any size, but cannot directly coordinate with political candidates. Despite public support for ending cannabis prohibition, the coalition says the Congress is stuck in the past, so the Super PAC will help speed up the nation's transformation on cannabis reform. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. This is also Cannabis Moment. RFK pledges to legalize cannabis and psychedelics using revenue to fund farms where people recovering from drug addiction can grow organic food. Well, that's awfully nice, Bob, isn't it? Bobby F. Kennedy, a 2024 Democratic presidential candidate, says that he would legalize cannabis and psychs if elected to the White House. He taxed both substances using revenue to create healing centers where people recovering from drug addiction could learn organic farming as a therapeutic tool. It also voiced support for freeing up banking services. I hate to do this, but man, my throat is stupid dry. All right, sorry. But man, I was just hearing my lips crack, and I'm like, I know you guys probably can hear it too. Probably now that I said it for sure. But anyway, let's get back to this. The candidate's position on drug policy reform had been vague around the time he entered the race, but it's quickly come into sharp focus as he promotes progressive policies that in some cases go well beyond that of incumbent President Joe. He says he would legalize psychedelic drugs, some form of legalization. He doesn't necessarily envision a commercial market where you could just visit a shop, but that there would be regulated access. So he's going to decrim it federally, allow the states to regulate it. Let's see. He says, I have a very good idea of what works and a vision for what we need to do in this country. And we need to make addiction treatment easy and cheap, and he's right about that. But he's not. He goes, I'm not saying blanket legalization, but we need to make it easy for psychiatrists and therapists who are trained to be able to use this on their patients when it comes to psychedelics and PTSD and OCD and the like. Let's see. I don't know. That was a lot less interesting than I thought it was going to be, and I apologize in advance. So let's keep cooking, should we? What do we got here? This guy, Travis Kelce, he estimates this from High Times. He estimates up to 80% of NFL players smoke cannabis. Others say it's higher. Super Bowl champion Travis says that most NFL players are already smoking it. In an interview with Vanity Fair, two-time Super Bowl champion tight end Travis estimated 80% of football players are smoking cannabis. Kelsey's estimates echo similar numbers floated by a handful of former NFL players. Kelce said that he was so embarrassed when a failed drug test that ended up getting him suspended from playing football one season in Cincinnati in 2010 after testing positive. His scholarship to the University of Cincinnati was also stripped, but with the NFL's looser rules regarding cannabis, he assumes that his peers in the NFL are taking advantage of the newfound freedoms. That's why he's adding the percentages. If you just stop smoking in the middle of July, you're fine. A lot of guys stop a week before and they still pass tests because everybody's working out in the heat and sweating their tail off. Nobody's really getting hit for it anymore. The number is high. He estimates that anywhere from 50 to 80% of the players in the NFL use cannabis. Kelce also discussed Super Bowl after parties and growing up watching Saturday Night Live to see Chris Farley and Will Ferrell and other stars hosting the show himself. He made a rare athlete appearance and an exclusive group. So, for Ricky Williams, he's made the same count numbers. Other former players say the number is higher. Martellus Bennett says about 89%. So, plenty more former and current players are investing in cannabis or opening businesses. The National Football League made a dramatic change to its drug testing policies. So, there you go. But under the new CBA, players will no longer face suspension if they test positive. The idea is to focus the drug program on clinical care as opposed to punishment. Since 2021, players in the NFL are tested only during a 2-week window at the beginning of training camp in the summer. So once you have that hard line, everybody just hits that hard line, and then everything's cool. From that, let's talk about this. Senate panel greenlights VA doctors to recommend medical cannabis. And it seems like there's been some movement. Like it's been reoccurring that there's some action, being happening. And that's cool. And I was going to mention something else, and I don't think I loaded the article, about there's continuing push for Mark Fogel and the other guy that's over in Russia for the government to do something similar to Griner. And that's starting to pick up a little speed too. So that's good stuff. That's where we should be focused on. And we should be focusing on the VA's availability to prescribe a little more easily to the ones I'd say who need it the most. Trauma patients and stinking vets. I don't think there should be any mumbo jumbo. You need it. You kept me safe. Here you go. Because again, we always say we thank our troops, but then we tell them what to do when they get here. Why don't you show them your thanks and then trust them to know what's good for themselves? And then I know as I say that out loud, that sounds kind of funny because you're saying, well, they don't know what they think about themselves. They're traumatized. They'll say whatever to get the drugs. I don't think that's true at all. But I think that's the spin. Otherwise, I don't get it. So U.S. Senate committee last week approved an amendment to a defense spending bill that would give the DA or the Departments of Veterans Affairs physicians the authority to prescribe medical cannabis for their patients in states that have legalized cannabis. The Senate committee approved the amendment and advancing the bill. During a hearing for the legislation, said that the amendment simply says in states that have a medical cannabis program, that a veteran's doctor can talk to their veteran patient about the pros and cons of medical cannabis and fill out related paperwork should a veteran decide to participate in a state program. Due to the continued illegality of cannabis at the federal level, doctors are prohibited from writing recommendations or patients. So, let's see. So I don't know what I'm even reading. So can they or not? While the agency has historically resisted change that would make medical cannabis available to military vets, current VA policy does not prohibit veterans from using cannabis medicinally. Well, that sounds like a bunch of whatever. This legislation would enable the VA doctors to know veterans the best to be able to have frank conversations and give them advice and counseling. They shouldn't have to leave their primary care doctor out of their own pocket. They try and find somebody. It's better to have the medical professionals. Veterans groups call for cannabis research. So, there you go. We'll see how that plans out, and we'll talk about it more as we get there. High times. UK minister admits to smoking cannabis in the past, but he didn't get very high, see? Minister Michael Gove said he toked up in the 80s at the University of Oxford. It's a Times radio broadcast. UK Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Housing and Community Minister, Intergovernmental Relations, Michael Gove, admitted smoking cannabis while he was a student in Oxford, adding he didn't get very high. They asked him if he took drugs during his studies at Oxford, and he goes, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Adding the smoking cannabis as a feature of the student experience. Well, I couldn't say it better myself. It's a feature of the student experience for a lot of people. It is indeed a feature experience of college. Daily cannabis use amongst college students increased 2020 to an historic high. The UK politician said that the cannabis in the 80s was nothing compared to the potency of today, which he'd have to have partaken today to know, otherwise you're just talking like everybody talks. If you took a High Times magazine from the 70s, do you think our top 40 buds look like trash by today's standards? And it's kind of funny he says trash when we're talking about he's trying to make it seem bad, right? He's trying to say like the stuff that don't look like trash now is bad, and the stuff that looked like trash was good. Get your act together, Gove. So, THC levels today are cranked up in seedless, manicured buds and concentrates. Well, it is, but, I mean, when it comes to medicating, it's better to dial in on something high quality. Without wanting to get too much into the policy, I think the type of cannabis that it's available now will often have a far higher capacity to cause harm. Asked whether he was saying that he didn't get very high, Gove replied, no. The cannabis minister went on to share his concerns. The link between smoking too much or ingesting into the middle and so is more pronounced. So, what is this guy? He spun me down a thing. Right? I mean, I don't know about that guy. Let's see. President Bill Clinton, what did he say? In 1992, he also smoked a little cannabis during his days as a Rhodes Scholar in Oxford. I've never broken a state law, he said. But when I was in England, I experimented with cannabis a time or two. I didn't like it, I didn't inhale it, and I never tried it again. Well, it's like you tried to get as far as close as you could, kind of. You know, you wanted it to be around you, but you didn't want it to be in you. You know, like, I mean, do it right, Bill. Cannabis isn't the only substance in question. Years ago, Gov also admitted taking cocaine on several occasions. Oh, well, he doesn't answer what he thinks of that, right? Well, how did you think of that? Did that get you high, Gove? Huh, the cocaine? How come you didn't respond to that? He regretted those experiences after details emerged in a biography. Apparently, and I didn't know this is true, but if High Times says it, it's got to be real. Cocaine is also a common feature of some former U.S. presidents. That's stinking interesting, isn't it? A former senior drug advisor to the government, Professor David Nutt, my favorite nut, criticized the double standard that we often see between commoners and politicians. Well, let's keep cruising here. What else do we got for the good folks? You're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday, I get in here. 420, open a big fat bag of cannabis news on 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org. And that's what's happening now. This is from Ganjapreneur. Adults in Connecticut can begin home-growing cannabis this Saturday. Adults aged 21 and older in Connecticut can grow their own cannabis plants for personal use starting Saturday, July 1. Under state law, individuals will be allowed to grow up to 3 mature and 3 immature plants with a maximum of 12. Starting Saturday, Connecticut can grow their own cannabis for personal use. Plants must be grown indoors in locked areas and unable to be accessed by anyone other than the consumer. Adult use cannabis sales commenced earlier this year. Last month's sales neared $23 million. The average adult use cannabis product price of $35.86 was its lowest level since the launch of the market. Well, you grow, Connecticut. Okay, this is kind of an interesting story. Okay, this is from the Washington Post. It's an opinion piece. It's called "A Dispute Over Cannabis Smoke Raises Questions for D.C. and Beyond." Okay. In October 2019, Cleveland Park resident Josepha Ippolito Shepard sent an email appeal to her neighbor, please stop polluting my home with your stinky reefer smoke. And this is a quote. Today, after a short stay outside the house, upon returning and entering my home, the horrible cannabis smell was overwhelming, so much that I got very, very nauseated and sick and started vomiting repeatedly until nothing was left in my stomach, wrote Miss Ippolito Shepard, who shares a wall with the neighbor, who actually got to hear all that, I'm sure. That was among the more than 200 emails that Miss Ippolito Shepard, I don't know why this writer of this article keeps writing her full name out, making me say it all the time. I'm just going to call her Ippo. No, that sounds disrespectful. Sent to her neighbor and her landlord in her campaign for clean residential air. Her appeals are now a matter of public record because in 2020, Miss Shepard sued for nuisance in a case that wound to an end this month with a ruling from the D.C. Superior Court Judge Ebony Scott in her favor. So she won. Okay, now this is a guy doing his thing in his own apartment, but it's coming out of his apartment into other people's places. You know, and I bet that's a common complaint in a lot of places. You know, my daughter even deals with that. You know, like, and it's like it gets, you know, like you find a weak spot, especially in apartments. You find a weak spot. Like, say they didn't seal up the walls between bathrooms, or ventilation is broader than it should be, and it's sucking it in from one guy's place into another. So here's how it went. While the court recognizes that the defendant possesses a license to purchase medical cannabis, so he can have it, he does not possess a license to disrupt the full use and enjoyment of one's home or land, nor does his license usurp this long-established right. The court prohibited the neighbor Thomas Cackett from smoking cannabis on his premises or within 25 feet of Miss Ippolito Shepard's residence. The Post reported that the ruling is believed to be the first of its kind and could open the door to additional legal action. That makes sense given the city's residential topography. Only 12% of the district households inhabited single-family whatever. In a city full of townhouses and condo buildings, cannabis smoke has a way of seeping through them. The liberalization left behind a legal oddity. Cannabis use remains prohibited in public spaces, yet it's allowed on private property, a point that was figured into Miss Ippolito's lawsuit. The case was initially dismissed on the rationale that the offending activity was legal, then reinstated by the D.C. Court of Appeals because a complaint can state an actionable nuisance claim based on conduct that is not inherently against the law. Correct. there are many legal activities, owning a dog or listening to music, for example, that can double as nuisances when carried out by inconsiderate residents. Nobody from a health perspective should be exposed to contaminants that we know are carcinogenic. Yeah. Many of the chemical So, what do they do from here? Some have proposed social consumption spaces. It would also import the smellscape of New York City. You got sidewalks. Another idea is to rescind the prohibition on smoking in public places. Seems like everyone's smoking a joint now, said Mayor Eric Adams. You know, everybody has a joint. Yeah, we know, Eric. What are you, dub? And again, in New York, if the number one thing you smell is good cannabis as opposed to urine and desperation and fentanyl spit, I'd go with that. This is from MJ Biz Daily. Canada cracking down on the words sody and cola in cannabis labels. The words soda, cola, root beer, ginger ale do not comply with Canada's strict labeling and promotions requirements for cannabis, according to an email obtained by the people who obtained emails. Stop bugging me, man. Asking me all these questions. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I didn't have my Snickers today, sir. Health Canada is requesting businesses to cease all non-compliant promotion and labeling of cannabis. The apparent crackdown would have a big impact on the increasingly popular carbonated cannabis beverage category. Man, that's a lot of C words. Carbonated cannabis. No, it's not. I'm just an idiot. And they potentially appeal to youth because they commonly refer to a soft drink. Which I would think that the fact that you've indoctrinated kids with the fact that they associate everything good with soft drinks, you know, they should get jacked up about an orange. Feel me? Ooh, is that a banana and almonds? Whatever. Let's see what else we got for you good people. This is a good article. I suggest reading it or checking it out. High Times. This is cannabis treatment for cancer. Where to get Rick Simpson oil. Rick Simpson oil. It's a sleeper medicine. I'm telling you. It's good for you. But you got to know what you're doing and stuff. Oh, just a side note, Luxembourg Parliament, they vote to legalize cannabis and cultivation, making it the second EU country to end prohibition. Good old Luxembourg. And it's all in like a different country, language, so I can't read it. Anyway, shout out Rick Simpson oil. This is from High Times. Cannabis use lower among Illinois teens who live near medical dispensaries. This is finding on teenage cannabis use from researchers at University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. Illinois teenager living in a zip code with a cannabis dispensary is less likely to have used cannabis. 12% compared with 15% who live in other zip codes. And they took a sample of 10,560 kids. So, yeah, I don't know. The good news is that it looks like in Illinois there's no immediate impact. In fact, we found that across the whole sample, those who lived in a zip code with a dispensary were less likely to have used cannabis. He says it's a head scratcher, to be honest, and they really don't even know. The only reason they can think of is that in 2018 there were only 53 dispensaries. It could be that the state was just not saturated enough with these facilities to see an effect at the time. Oh, he's saying there just wasn't enough out there to get your head messed up. I got it. But anyway, programming on KRFFLP-FM Radio Free Fargo 95.9 has been underwritten by Flatland Guitar and Lutherie. Flatland Guitar is your full-service guitar shop and your exclusive dealer for Yamaha, Taylor, and Paul Reed Smith guitars and other brands. They sell guitars on consignment, they take trade-ins, and have a full-service on-site repair center. Check out Flatland Guitar and Lutherie on Facebook or visit them in person at their location at 1450 25th Street South in Fargo. Man, I know you're going to find this as hard to believe as I am, but Bob Dylan's got new songs. And I keep thinking he's 177, but here he's only 77. He's got an album, no drums, 4 guitars, and like a harmonica and like an accordion. I don't know. This one just sounds like it's got a lot of good words put together. I just listened to it once or so. But here's Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues, 95.9. Wow. And that's how you end. And that's how you end the show. Just like Tom Thumb. Everything sounds funny in my headphones all of a sudden, but whatever. Oh, I got myself turned down. That's what it is. Hello, everybody. Sorry. Just like Tom Thumb Blues, Bob Dylan, brand new, 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. It's a beautiful day here in Fargo Moorhead. I hope the sun is at least shining in your soul today, wherever you are. We talk about cannabis, the benefits of cannabis legalization, and the like. And apparently how many people are snorting coke in the world all of a sudden. I mean, what did I say? Like 3,200 tons? Crazy. Everybody's nostrils ought to be ashamed of themselves. But anyway, I believe God created cannabis, however. I'm not so sure about cocaine. I would argue that he did not. But maybe he created the thing to make the thing. I don't know. That's an argument I don't want to get into. Now, was somebody hopped up on crack? Just kidding. I believe God created cannabis for us to use as we see fit, and I show him props every Sunday. Antioch Church, 417 Main Avenue. If you feel like getting a little God in your life, come on through. This show is also brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy, blackcottagealchemy.com, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, 1,600 mgs of CBD of this oily goodness. Thank you for sponsoring this show, Black Cottage Alchemy. I don't know. I feel like I should drop the mic and get out of here. To be honest, I feel like I've accomplished a lot. We've done a lot. We've seen a lot together, haven't we, folks? The road to cannabis legalization is paved with shows that Wilson's on. And I've been doing this now. Well, it'll be... I don't know anymore. But I think it's 3 or 4. I think I'm in my 3rd summer at least. I don't know though. I mean, I know I've done over 100 and some shows. I do know that. But nobody cares. You guys stay strong. Keep fighting the good fight. Again, Minnesota, 23rd state to legalize August 1st. You can move around Minnesota a whole lot easier. So keep that in mind. You can have 2 ounces on your person. That's literally at Woodlawn Park. You could be there. You could have it duct taped to your head if you weren't afraid to getting it removed from you mildly violently. There'd probably be some shoving and grabbing. You do have it taped on your head, and you probably don't want to give it up. So there'd probably be a problem. So you probably just want to keep it in your pocket. But anywho, educate yourselves on the benefits of cannabis so you can educate others on said benefits. I'll be back up in here next Thursday. I'm going to try to figure out how to get an old show in automation because I'm going to be gone the Thursday of like the 27th, I think. And so that'll probably be a rerun. And I don't know how to like prep it before, so you know what I mean? So it's a rerun. So just be expecting that like July 27th. But anyway, I'm out of here. We'll see you next Thursday. Stinky Art Music Mart's not in today. He's out of town. Or whatever he's doing. Mixtape. Artemis Shrine. And I missed one. I'll see you next Thursday. It's David Allen, Judgment Day. Peace.